Tonight we have with us Amy McCorkle from Healing Hands Entertainment. How are you?
I'm doing fine. How are you?
I'm good. I'm good. Good to live stream with you again. We haven't done this in a while.
No, it's been a while. Usually I have keep a steady stream of material coming your way.
We got it though this time because we have a news. We're kicking off our new web series today, and that is called Recovery Unplugged, which you guys saw in the intro. Um, and the text is lost somewhere. So that's my fault. Let me get it right so people know the name of the show. Recovery Unplugged. With Amy McCorkle. I'm your producer extraordinaire, John Spalding, who is to blame for any live streaming glitches. So go ahead and comment in the section below. And what we're going to do is we're just going to talk a little bit about the series and a little bit about the Letters to Daniel project, including the fundraiser. Show a trailer for Letters to Daniel, the full feature film, and then we'll get into the first episode of Recovery Unplugged. So, Amy,
Yes.
as you're furiously texting and typing, tell us a little bit about Recovery Unplugged and what was your inspiration behind putting this series together.
Okay, so I have always loved talk shows, the format of them,
Mm-hmm.
and I love the queen of them all, Oprah. If it, love her or hate her, you have to admit she knows how to make people comfortable on her couch and get them to open up about all areas of their life. And sometimes she would highlight mental illness. She always highlighted well being. But what I wanted to highlight artists and caregivers who were people who were artists who dealt on the front lines of mental illness every day. And
Okay.
I really, the dream was to take it. I pitched to a network, and they liked it, but it wasn't something they were more interested in, say something like Real Housewives of Atlanta or something like that.
Right.
So it wasn't real. The format wasn't what they were looking for, but I still had a desire to do it. So I said, well, I can do it on. I did it in the realms of I interviewed independent artists, whether they were writers or filmmakers or actors or you know anything that was create. If they were a creative and they dealt with mental illness, then I wanted to interview them. And for my first three interviews, I chose three people who are friends of mine and who I've worked with. One of them, and one's my best friend, and another has become a really good friend and trusted sounding board. And we all deal with mental illness. And
Gotcha.
so they allowed me to ask personal questions about their mental health and how it impacted their career. And we have a little fun on the show too. So
Okay. Cool. So how many? So for season one or for this series, how many total episodes did you put together?
nine, and they range in time between 7 minutes and 22 minutes.
Okay.
So each it depended on how comfortable the person was sitting with me and about opening up about certain things. Some
Gotcha.
people sometimes the illness makes you shy, and
Mm-hmm.
it's just that much. It's easier to be the person asking the question than it is to be the person on the hot seat.
Speaking of that, what was another key learning that you had putting those interviews together?
I love asking questions, and if I knew the person, it it was real easy to ask questions that set up for other questions that would broaden the conversation. But if I didn't know the person very well, it was a struggle and a stretch to get a really good interview done. But most of them turned out really good because people ended up being open, even if it was just for a short amount of time, about their experiences.
Okay, gotcha. How long did it take you to kind of put them together?
Uh,
Did you do it over the course of like a month or 2 months
I
or?
did it. I started film. I did the first three at Indie Gathering, and the last six at Imaginarium in October.
Okay,
So
and
it's about 3 months.
for the mental health aspect, this is a little bit different than um, some of the other stuff that you've done. So how was it like um, interviewing people, and like what did you learn about people's everyday struggles with the show?
Well, okay, so one person said, okay, I don't have the mental illness, but I'm a caregiver and I would like to speak from a caregiver's point of view.
Unprompted,
And
right? Like that just came out from doing the interview.
well, I put a call out for people who would be interested in being filmed at Imaginarium. And one writer got back to me and she goes, well, the caregiver's experience is valuable too. I said, well, I agree. I think all voices of this are important. And she got, so I knew she was a caregiver, but I didn't know what her story was per se.
Hmm.
And as we were interviewing, I found out her daughter was struggling. She walked in to her daughter. She didn't know her daughter was depressed, and Um, she walked into her daughter's room to find her daughter with a bag over her head.
Oh my gosh.
She was alive, but
Ooh,
she talks about the struggle to keep her daughter alive during that time.
gotcha. That is, that's interesting. It's good when you have people that are willing to engage like that in this type of series, but also I like the holistic approach that you took towards who to select for the interviews. Um, Changing pace. I'm going to show everybody right now, kind of a bigger picture on what we're doing. This is also just some promotion for us, so that we can talk with you all more about the project for Letters to Daniel. And it's Letters to Daniel. And you can see here from the title, it says bipolar disorder, one woman's journey from breakdown to recovery, from hitting rock bottom to success. And so that's kind of the full feature film that we are fundraising towards and working towards with these broadcasts and helping get the word out about the film, which is currently in the casting process, right?
Yes, we're still looking for our Amy and Missy,
Okay.
uh, the leads. So
And then we have Aaron from. Oh, he's just sent me a message. He's not able to make it. But Aaron is on board and is part of the production team for the film. And you and Missy with Healing Hands. And we got a $1,500 goal, so you guys are very close.
yeah,
You guys
we've
are
done
very
great.
close.
It helped, but that's pretty much spent. It's been spent on the teaser trailer. It's been spent on equipment. It's being spent for everything it's supposed to be spent for. But that's the most I've ever raised for any film.
Okay.
Aaron, my AOF and Indie Gathering family really came out. Like I had the executive who offered Letters to Daniel a distribution deal at Parables TV donated money to it. George Lee, who is with Story Optic Pictures, he is partners with Michael Bay, Transformers dude.
Mm-hmm.
He donated to it. Uh, and we've had,
Eddie Beret.
yeah, he donated the most. But you know what the irony is there? I don't think he knows what this film is about. He rails against meds and traditional treatment
Mm-hmm.
because he's a spiritual guy.
Sure.
He says all you need is God, and if you read the script and know anything about me, you know it's about getting active treatment, traditional treatment for. But we took his money because he was insistent upon it.
Good. That's good. And maybe after he watches the full feature, he'll leave there with a different perspective, and or, I think all types of healing in these situations are beneficial, as long as the person's open to it and they feel that it's helping them. I think.
Yeah.
But I like,
Uh,
but you're right on the idea of traditional treatment. So with that, I'm not going to say much more about that, but I do have the trailer for Letters to Daniel preloaded. So let's watch
okay.
that, and then we'll be back and we'll talk a little bit about this first episode, and then get going. So here is the trailer for Letters to Daniel, the full feature film.
Dear Daniel, life did not always look like this. They say life happens when you're busy making other plans. For me, it was bipolar disorder. It crept in and systematically, quickly dissembled my ability to function in society and rendered me scared, lost, and lonely. I lost the ability to focus, and the simplest of tasks became too overwhelming. Even though it felt like I had been abandoned, I still had one person in my corner out there on the front lines with me. Missy Goodman. Writing partner, best friend, soul sister, caregiver. This disease will bury you if it goes untreated. But with the help of medication, therapy, and the support of an amazing caregiver, I've gone on to be in a one-day-at-a-time recovery and have a career in the arts. This is the story of how me and Missy got there together. This is Letters to Daniel.
All right, everyone, that was the trailer for the full feature film Letters to Daniel, from Healing Hands Entertainment. Filming this summer, correct?
Correct. June 21st through the 28th.
Come HE double hockey sticks or high water.
Yep. And we've got a lot of AOFers, my Action on Film family, as actors, as crew. I've got my Indie Gathering family, including yours truly, as the UPM, the Unit Production Manager.
Hey, I'm still lobbying for a cameo. We have to negotiate on the sign I'm going to hold up, and we'll see. That'll determine how I interact with everybody there.
Yeah, you're not gonna hold up a sign. I've done decided, no signs.
Well, we might have to enter into some steep contract
Don't-
negotiations.
You're not going to be sitting in my film holding up a poster that says John 3:16.
That might be a good one. I mean, that's my name. No one will know. All right. So tell us about this first episode of Recovery Unplugged.
Yes, it is the pilot, and I chose my best. He's my best guy friend. He's my psychological sibling. His name is Dr. Andrew Cooper. He's a PhD. He's not a doctor. He went to school at Harvard and Yale, not as a legacy, but because he was smart enough to.
There you go.
And there is a difference between the kind of a legacy student and someone who actually
Got in because they deserved it.
Yeah. He is a horror writer, and his horror writing is very extreme. Like, okay, when I bought his book Burning the Middle Ground because I wanted to support him. And I was like, okay, can I handle this? Because I'm not really a horror person, because I got, right? Well, he has this couple, and they have a kid, and the kid is terminally sick. And they make a deal with the devil.
I knew that was coming.
to save them. And so what they do is that they have to have a baby, and they have to sacrifice that baby. And at that point, I said, I had read enough to know he was a very skilled writer. He's incredibly talented. In fact, he wrote his first screenplay, and it finished second in the drama division at Indie Gathering last year. And so we got to see him and his husband at the film festival. I love Andrew. He also has bipolar disorder.
Okay.
And we relate on that way. And so we haven't known each other for very long. We've known each other since about we've known each other since 2012, but we became friends in 2015 when in 2014 he judged the proof of concept documentary, which G1NBC aired. In 2014, he judged that, and I got a runner-up award for it at the convention we were at, and he was a judge, and I reached out to him. I said, "Look, I really want to get better as a filmmaker, as a writer." He said, "Well, first, he told me what my strengths were: the writing." And the drawbacks were that the film had no production value. It was just a series of pictures, and there was no music. I mean, it was pretty. It's pretty basic in its presentation.
Yep. The stories are gripping, right? It's a good.
Yeah.
It's a good turn it on and listen type film.
Yeah, and movies are supposed to be seen.
I know.
So, and I wrote the script, and me and Missy co-wrote the screenplay for Letters to Daniel, and we bravely, because he's a critic, and we knew he would be honest with us. We knew he wouldn't be mean, but we knew he wouldn't sugarcoat it. If it sucked, we were going to know pretty fast.
Right.
But he read it and he loved it, and he cried in places. And he goes, "Now get it." He goes, "I do the icky horror." There were places in it where I was, where I cried. He cried like 3 times reading it.
That's high praise.
Well, Doug told me the same thing. He got choked up when he was.
Oh, it is very well written. So.
But this episode is about him and his work and his journey, and what his mental health has done to him in his life and his creative journey.
Okay. Cool. So, and what's Andrew's last name one more time?
Andrew's last name is Cooper. L. Andrew Cooper.
So this is L. Andrew Cooper, Amy's first Recovery Unplugged interview. And we're going to be back next Monday, correct?
Correct.
So we'll see you guys next Monday. Hope you enjoy this episode of Recovery Unplugged, our pilot, and we'll see you next week. Don't tune out, though. You have to watch the episode and then leave. But we're leaving right now because we want to go watch this show.
Yeah.
All right. Amy, it's always a pleasure to talk to you live. You do such a good job. All right, here it is. Here it is, everyone. The pilot episode of Recovery Unplugged.
Hi, and welcome to the first episode of Recovery Unplugged. Today we are interviewing Andrew Cooper at the Indie Gathering Film Festival in Hudson, Ohio. Andrew, you and I have been on the convention festival circuit together since 2013, where we engaged in a spirited debate about the X-Files. However, we've gotten to know one another over several festivals and some cross-country visits, and now we're sitting here at the Indie Gathering, where you've won second place for your drama screenplay, Unreal Anthony. You've written numerous books, both fiction and nonfiction, edited a collection of short stories with Pamela Turner, and have a PhD in film studies. You are quite accomplished on the indie circuit, yet you and I share a common trait, which I believe probably pulled us together in one another's orbit, and that's the fact we have bipolar disorder. Why don't we start off by talking about your credentials? Where did you attend college and graduate school, and do you believe that education has helped to get you where you are today?
Well, I got my BA at Harvard and my PhD at Princeton. And I don't think education is everything. I certainly think that in some ways it has helped. You know, I got a good education, so I know stuff. and knowing stuff is useful for getting things done. And so it's definitely helped feed into my work and helped me to get my work out there. But at the same time, sometimes it's a hindrance because people have these high expectations of me that sometimes I live up to and sometimes I don't. And people also tend to expect me to be a complete snob, which I'm not a complete snob.
Only a partial snob.
Sure. But no, people have a lot of expectations that come with the degrees that don't always pan out. So sometimes the degrees can get in the way.
Okay. Could you take us through your creative writing process for writing a novel, and does it differ from when you write a script?
Well, I'm a big outliner, and so that's something that both my processes for writing novels and writing screenplays have in common, is that I will start with outlining, and so it's just a matter of well, I'll start. Actually, let me take that back a little bit. The first thing I put to paper is an outline, but generally it starts with a storm in my brain, and then it'll incubate in my brain for a long time, and then when I put it to paper, I'll start with an outline. But the outlines actually are different for the novels and for the screenplays. I tend to use a more traditional outlining approach for the novels, whereas for the screenplays I just use a cause and effect outline. It's just straight down the line. It's like this happens, then this happens, then this happens, then this happens, then this happens. Whereas the novel tends to branch out a lot in the way that I write the outlines. And then when the writing finally happens, it's just a matter of following the outlines and then seeing if my brain decides that I need to deviate somehow, and then I can break free from the outline if I need to.
How did you become interested in writing and movies in general?
I was born. I've always wanted to write. I can't remember a time when I wasn't writing. So I've always been scribbling short stories, I think I tried my first novel at some point in elementary school and failed miserably. I didn't finish one until I was 18. But screenplays are new to me. I just wrote my first screenplay last year. So I became interested just because I've always loved the movies. And my family, we talk to each other in movie quotes sometimes. It's just how we relate to each other is by watching movies and quoting movies and living on movies. And I got to know people like yourself who are excellent at screenwriting, and I thought, well, maybe I should give this a try. And I started writing, and it turns out that hey, I can do that too. So it's just another fun way to express myself.
When did you, this kind of goes back to what you were talking about, when did you know you wanted to be a novelist and a screenwriter?
Well, the idea of being a novelist goes back, again, as far as I can remember. I never put it first, which was strange looking back. I didn't really start putting it first until probably 5 or 6 years ago. But I've always had some kind of novel or long story brewing in the back of my brain. And so to put a date on it, an exact when, is almost impossible to do.
And it's just always been a part of you, right? It's like,
it's second nature to have some kind of story going on in my brain. And the screenwriting is just the newest way I have to get what's in my brain out on the page.
what was your favorite project to work on, and why?
That's a tough one. Favorite project to work on and why? My favorite project, probably my novel Burning the Middle Ground, because it was the most demanding in terms of the number of characters whose perspectives I was exploring. And
Boy, is that a disturbing book. It's good. It's well written. It's for anybody looking for an excellent horror book to read. I highly recommend it. Burning the Middle Ground. Is it available online?
Yeah.
It's available online. You can find it on Amazon and other retailers. Can you tell us a little bit about what Burning the Middle Ground is about?
Well, it's about a small town in South Georgia where there are two churches that are battling for the hearts and minds of the people. And caught in the middle is this group of people who start to realize that one of the churches has gotten a hold of this book that enables them to do mind control and all kinds of other horrible things. And so it becomes this sort of battle royale between this small group of people and this other group of people involved in this church, and it's just struggling for the minds of the town.
And what was your favorite project to work on exactly?
Again, it's just the number of characters I was dealing with, the scope of trying to capture an entire town in a book, and it was originally going to be a series. I never wrote the second book, so it's not a series at this time. I conceived of it as having a very large scope, and so working with that large scope was fun too.
What project was your most personal, and how come?
Published or unpublished?
Your pick.
My pick. Well, I have an unpublished novel called Shadow Living that is about a kid who inherits all of the memories of his older brother who commits suicide. And it's about how he struggles to live his own life when he has these memories of this older person haunting him in his head. And I kind of split aspects of my own personality between the older brother and the younger brother. And so it was a very personal journey for me writing this character as he struggles with different aspects of me, basically. So that was probably my most personal, and I came close to selling that one, but I didn't manage to sell that book. So that was probably the most personal journey I've had as a writer.
Okay, now if you don't mind, I'd like to discuss one of the ties that binds us together. the fact that we both have bipolar disorder. As you know, recovery is such an individual process, and because it looks so different on everyone. If you're comfortable with doing so, could you share with us when you were first diagnosed and how did that affect the trajectory of your career?
I wasn't actually diagnosed as bipolar until pretty late. I was diagnosed 5 years ago, 6 years ago. I had been diagnosed with depression and anxiety for many years. And I knew that my father had bipolar disorder. And so I knew it was always a possibility for me,
Yeah.
because it's genetic. But I didn't get the diagnosis until I started therapy with someone when I was living in Louisville. And at first, because I didn't really know how it had affected my dad, I didn't think it was that big a deal. I thought it was sort of like depression plus. No one really explained hypomania to me. Nobody really explained what was involved in the disorder.
Yeah, all those wonderful extra gifts that come along with it.
Yeah, and so I didn't start to connect right away what has been happening with me most of my life and how it could be attributed to bipolar disorder. So I didn't know much about it, but it did start affecting me at work, and unfortunately my career in Louisville took a major hit. I suffered some discrimination at work, and I ended up ending that job that I had in Louisville. But that enabled me to start focusing full-time on my writing career.
Yeah.
So it resulted in some pretty major changes as I started to come to terms with the disorder, and as the disorder itself started to assert itself more in my life. I started to have some serious problems, started to go through a kind of breakdown myself, and that's probably why I got the diagnosis, because it was getting worse.
Yeah. It doesn't ever say, oh yeah, we can diagnose you when you're doing okay. Only when the shit has hit the fan.
Yes, indeed.
Okay, well, you've kind of addressed this, but did it make it more difficult for you in every, like, not just professionally but personally?
Well, my relationships were not really hurt by it. I was very fortunate in that I have a very good partner at the time, husband now. So I was fortunate that I had great support at home. It was running in my family, so my family took it in stride.
You got the family.
Yep. My father had the diagnosis. My sister had the diagnosis, so she has since questioned that diagnosis. So it was, nobody was shocked by it, and nobody was taken aback by it.
You're also a poet. Do you find you write more when in a hypomanic state, or do you find it a release in it, or does it just wind you up, so to speak?
I think I write more of everything in a hypomanic state, but I think poetry in particular is good for a hypomanic state because I like patterns.
Yeah.
And so I can put all kinds of patterns into poetry, and so I can just write page after page of rhyming words and alliterating words and words that echo each other and all kinds of patterns that nobody reading will ever notice or care about, but they're there for me, darn it, and that's the kind of attention to detail and whatnot that I tend to get into really when I'm hypomanic.
What therapeutic methods do you use to manage your moods? And do you find what your rhythm is creatively around your moods? Is it tied to the seasons of your mood?
Well, I'm on a list of medications, of course, for their therapeutic value. I don't do a whole lot of other highly disciplined things. I try to get exercise, which is supposed to help with the mood control. So that's one thing I do. But people tell me I should meditate. People say meditation is the thing, but I just don't have the patience for meditation.
Yeah, and what they tell a bipolar person to meditate, that's like saying, yeah, it works, but it is really hard for it's definitely not a strong suit of mine. For meditation, I usually call it decompression. And after a busy day, okay. So finally, let's have a little bit of fun. If you could invite 3 people, living or dead, to have dinner with, who would they be and why?
3 people to have dinner with. Anybody, at any time. Well, when I'm asked to, heard similar questions before, and if I can have one person to dinner, I tend to say the French philosopher Michel Foucault, who died back in the 80s. And I read a lot of his stuff in college and graduate school, and I would love to be able to pick his brain in person. So he's definitely one of them. Alive, I'd love to have dinner with Stephen King.
Yeah, he seems to be cool.
He does seem to be very cool. Everybody says he's actually a very nice guy. I've heard that from a lot of people.
Yeah.
I've never met the guy, so I couldn't tell you. It could be a total lie. He could be an a-hole. I don't know. But everybody says he's very nice. So I'd love to have dinner with him. And for a third person, is probably. It's going to anticipate another question, I think, that might be coming up. But I'd love to have a sit down with Virginia Woolf.
Oh yeah.
Just because she's a fascinating person who lived an interesting life, and of course is an amazing writer, and just an amazing mind, and able to see through things and talk about them with a lot of clarity. So.
Okay. Who is your favorite author?
And I had a feeling you were going to ask me that. and I would go back to Virginia Woolf for that. She still has several novels of hers that I haven't read. So I feel like if I'm going to claim a favorite, I should have read everything she ever wrote. I haven't done that, but she is the author of several books that I would claim as favorites. It's funny. She writes in a way that I have trouble remembering. I have trouble hanging on to with my mind. It sort of flows through me, but it just moves me emotionally in ways that nobody else does. And people speculate that she was bipolar.
Yeah.
So I think that's one of the reasons we're in sync. She's a tremendous writer.
If you could be any character from any novel, who would it be?
I haven't read these books in a long time, but I would say Buddy Glass, who is the writer character in J.D. Salinger's novels, and he writes about his family, the Glass family, and they're a family of super intelligent, basically super nerds, and it's his job to record mostly the goings on in his brother's life, but he writes everything down, and he's the writer of the family. And so if I could be one type of writer, or one type of character in a book, I would be Buddy Glass, the writer in J.D. Salinger's work.
And finally, if there was a heaven and you were to arrive at the pearly gates, what would you like to hear them say?
Hopefully, come on in. Yeah, stop, do not enter is what I hope to avoid. But good work, kid. Come on in would be what I'd hope to hear. But the good work part would be nice to hear that I managed to do something with my life that somebody up there noticed.
Okay, well, thank you for sitting down with me because as hopefully the audience could tell, it explores themes of mental health in the creative field, and I've seen lots of I was hoping for a good interview, and you gave it to me, and okay, well, I was hoping for more sponsorship thing, but this is a messenger bag, and it's just a little token of our support of your career, and hopefully you could use it.
Thank you. Very cool.
Well, thank you for being on our show, and until next time, from Indie Gathering, this is Amy and Healing Hands Entertainment.